Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be about day jobs, and this is something that I have talked a little bit about in the past, in the sense that you all know that I worked day jobs first before going freelance, but haven't really talked about it in depth and what that experience was like. And I thought today would be a fun chance to do that. So it's something a lot of other people have done, and I figured that the angle that I want to take is to talk about the kind of three main day jobs that I had and the things that I learned and the experiences that I took away from those that I still incorporate either into my art or into my business practices as a freelancer. So yeah, the three day jobs that I worked and the lessons learned in each and how they apply to the work that I do today. So my first job was at Starbucks as a barista, which meant that I made coffee and lattes and frappuccinos. And I worked at Starbucks from, I started at 16 and I worked there for like 6 years. So it was probably my longest continuous stretch at one place of employment. But some lessons that I took away from being a barista. One is one that Starbucks is well known for in terms of their training, and if you have ever worked there, if you were ever a Starbucks partner, that's what they call employees. You know that Starbucks really emphasizes customer service, and while that's not an immediate one-to-one transference to working in freelance, I will say that what I've taken away from the customer service knowledge is just how important it is to be nice and to try to explain things well to the customer. And I think that that's really important in dealing with clients, is to try to express myself clearly and kindly and to try to hear what they're saying and to just be nice in my business practices. So yeah, customer service is definitely something I took away from Starbucks. And in addition to making the coffee and making the drinks and doing all that kind of stuff, I also had to do some very unglamorous tasks like mopping floors and doing dishes and cleaning bathrooms and on occasion even unclogging toilets. And the takeaway of that for me has been that sometimes, well, in every field, there are unglamorous tasks that you don't want to do that still have to get done, and it's important to do them. So that's pretty basic, but yeah, I would say those are my takeaways, that the dirty work still has to get done and that being nice and having good customer service is super important. So my next day job was as a private SAT tutor. And what I took away from that experience was first the knowledge that I like helping people learn and that I like sharing what I know and seeing it make an impact in somebody else's life. And I also learned how, as a part of that, I learned how important it is to explain things and communicate things in a way that makes sense to your audience. So whether your audience is a client that's a high power, big advertising firm that has a lot of experience and art directors and they know what it's like to work with an illustrator, or whether your client is a small business or an individual who hasn't ever worked with an illustrator before, the experience of tutoring for the SAT and communicating complex information in unique and specialized ways to each student that I worked with helped me to understand how I need to work on my communication skills as a freelancer to communicate just as clearly with a small business or an individual as I do with a big firm or a big magazine, and just understanding the importance of that nuance. And the last thing that I took away from tutoring for SATs was the knowledge and belief that anyone can get better at anything. And that applies to preparing and testing for the SAT, and I think it also applies to cooking, to singing, to reading, to any skill that you point to, and also, of course, to art. So yeah, that was my last takeaway for SAT tutoring. So my last day job was as a faith-based community organizer, and I was working out of a church in the inner city, working with a group of other residents and organizers to help build up and create high quality after school programming. And what I learned from that experience was how important it is to take a big idea and a big goal and to break it down into bite-sized, achievable chunks. Because if you have the really big idea that's super exciting and motivating, but you don't know where to start and you can't figure out how to get from point A to point Z, there are a whole bunch of little steps in between that need to happen before the big project comes to its completion. So understanding the importance of, yes, having the big idea, but also breaking it down into achievable chunks has been really huge, and something that I've talked about a lot in other videos in terms of like artistic motivation and pacing and how I get work done on a regular basis. And related to that, I also learned how important it is to have schedules and to manage timelines. And this is somewhat important for me in my own practice when I'm doing personal work, but where that really comes into play is in working with clients. And a lot of artists and illustrators and freelancers in general have a really bad reputation for not being able to finish projects on time, for being late with deadlines, for kind of not being able to work within some of the constraints and systems that exist in companies and other private entities. So that's been something that I have been really grateful for, having that experience and learning how to create schedules and timelines and learning how to stick to them has had a direct application in how I work with clients, and I think and hope what ends up being one of the more positive aspects for the client of working with me is that I am able to really stick to deadlines. And in some cases where it's maybe a smaller client or where they don't have that infrastructure and don't have those practices as a part of their business or don't really know how to set that up, that's something that I'm able to bring to the relationship. So it's worked out really well. And the final thing that I took away from working as an organizer was the importance of having clear expectations and boundaries with the people that you work with. And again, this is mostly applied to working with clients. So having, and something that I've talked about too in the contracts video and the other kind of Q&As that I've done on dealing with clients and dealing with revisions and stuff, how important it is to have communication up front about what you're expecting, what the client is expecting, what you're able to provide, and kind of what those constraints and boundaries are, and just being really clear about that at the get-go, and how much that facilitates not only a pleasant, happy working relationship with your client, but also a really solid end product that you are both happy with. So yeah, those are my 3 day jobs and the lessons that I learned from them and continue to apply to my work today. So yeah, I think it's really easy if you're in the phase where you're working a day job and you're trying to do your art at the same time. It can be very frustrating to feel like you're pulled in this direction that doesn't have anything to do with what you really want to be doing in the end. But I hope if this video communicated anything, it's that you may be working in an area that has nothing to do with art, but your time isn't wasted. And if you're working a day job right now, that is not a waste. And somehow I really think there will be things that you take from that and that you apply to your work as a creative. So hope you all enjoyed hearing about my experiences with my day jobs. And yeah, and if you're working a day job right now or you worked one in the past and you have something that you learned from it, please put it in the comments below so that other people can see that and feel encouraged. And yes, I think that is it. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit the thumbs up and subscribe, and have a wonderful week, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.